Let's be real for a moment. People don't just disappear from your life overnight. They fade, quietly, like fog swallowing a familiar view. A woman doesn't cheat in one sudden moment. She drifts, piece by piece, emotionally before physically. And no one warns you when it starts. They'll say she just needs space, that she's tired or distracted. But the man who's still enough, observant enough, the Stoic, he senses it. He doesn't chase. He watches. He feels the distance growing even when her words say nothing's changed. If you've ever looked at her and felt like she was already gone, like her smile was meant for someone else, then this video is your mirror. Watch carefully, because these are the cracks before the collapse. And before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to Stoic 24 and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the truth most men never hear, but always need. Sign 1, her presence is still there, but her attention isn't. You know the feeling, she's sitting right next to you, same couch, same smile, same routine. But something's off, not loud, not obvious, just off. You speak, and she nods, but it doesn't land. It doesn't spark. Last month she was laughing at your dumb jokes and texting you midday just to say, "I miss you." Now she scrolls through her phone while you're talking, eyes glazed over like your background noise. You bring up something important and she replies with, "Huh? What did you say?" And worst of all, she used to remember. She remembered your coffee order, your favorite cologne, that story you told her at 2 a.m. when you were vulnerable. Now she forgets your birthday plans like they were a footnote in her schedule. When you ask if something's wrong, she tells you, "I'm just tired," or "You're overthinking it." And maybe she even believes it, but you feel it in your gut. That primal alarm that something has shifted. Her presence stayed, but her interest left. There's a difference between physical closeness and emotional connection. The body can stay out of habit, but the heart goes where it feels seen. And here's the brutal truth. When a woman's attention fades, it's not random. Women rarely detach without cause. It's usually quiet at first, maybe even innocent. A distraction, a new conversation, a curiosity she won't admit. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. For I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed." Now think about that, because here's where Stoicism hits hard. As men, our power lies not in denial, but in clarity. You don't force her to reconnect. You don't beg her to feel again. You accept what is. You stop romanticizing what was. It's when she stops asking about your day, when she stops noticing your wins, when the sparkle in her eyes dims. It's not just a bad week. It's the beginning of emotional distance. A Stoic man doesn't panic when he feels that space. He doesn't lose himself chasing someone who's already pulling away. He becomes still. He observes. And then when the truth becomes undeniable, he lets go with strength, not fear. Because there is no strength in holding on to someone who's already let go. Sign 2. Her life becomes split. One side you never see. There was a time when everything flowed freely between you. You didn't have to ask who texted her. She'd just tell you. You didn't wonder what she was thinking, because she made you part of her inner world. That was trust. That was closeness. Now, you're left out. The updates are vague. The names vanish from her stories. You went from being her sounding board to being her silent audience. Her phone, once a tool she left unlocked on the table, is now a vault. Always face down, always in her hand. And every answer you get feels like a deflection, not a conversation. When you question it, she turns it into your fault. Why are you being insecure? Why don't you trust me? And maybe for a second, you doubt yourself. But deep down, you know the difference. There's a line between privacy and secrecy. Privacy says, this is mine, but you're still my person. Secrecy says, you don't belong in this part of my life anymore. One protects love, the other hides its decay. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." That applies here, because the moment she starts hiding, she's no longer holding on to connection. She's holding on to the illusion of loyalty while planning her escape. This isn't just a shift in habits, it's a psychological shift in identity. She's creating two versions of herself. One who still goes through the motions with you and one who's already gone. And here's the cold truth, brother. When a woman starts living two lives, she's not trying to fix things. She's rehearsing who she gets to be without you. And by the time you see the second version clearly, the first will already be gone. If you ignore this sign, you're not being noble. You're volunteering for heartbreak. A Stoic doesn't beg for clarity. He observes, accepts, and adjusts, not to win her back, but to walk away with his dignity intact. Sign 3. Closeness isn't close anymore. Intimacy isn't just about bodies, it's about presence. And when a woman begins to pull away, it's not always loud or obvious. Sometimes, she still touches you. She still lies beside you. But something invisible has shifted. Her warmth is gone. Her kiss feels staged. Her hands are colder than the room. She might still go through the motions, because routine is easier than confrontation, but you can feel it deep down. Her soul is somewhere, else maybe the affection stops completely. She becomes stiff, withdrawn, like she's shrinking from your touch, or maybe she overcompensates. Suddenly she's more passionate, more physical, trying things she never tried before. But the vibe is different. Her eyes aren't locked into, or she's not loving you, she's distracting you, covering the trail. It's a performance and not a connection. And that's the worst kind of betrayal. When the body stays, but the heart has already left the room. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When her soul is no longer tethered to you, you'll feel it, even in her silence. The Stoic man doesn't need a confession, he reads the energy. He pays attention to the gaps between words, the dead air in a hug, the tension in a moment that used to be effortless. You don't kiss her lips, you kiss a wall. And that wall? It's built with guilt, covered in perfume, but it's still cold. Don't. If you're a man who knows what that feels like, then understand this. You're not crazy. You're just finally seeing what she's been trying to hide in plain sight. Sign 4. Fights appear from nowhere. When arguments aren't about the dish, but the distance. At first, conversations felt natural. You'd talk about your day, your plans, even laugh over stupid things. But now, it's like walking on glass. One wrong word, a delayed text, a sigh too heavy, and she snaps. Suddenly, you're not just the man she loves. You're the enemy in her head. She accuses you of being cold, inattentive, careless. But deep down, you know none of this is truly about you. This kind of tension doesn't come from nowhere. It's displacement, a psychological defense. See, when guilt builds up inside someone, they look for somewhere else to aim it. Instead of turning inward and facing the betrayal they're a part of, they turn the spotlight on you. They have to make you the villain, because if they can convince themselves that you were the problem all along, then leaving becomes easier, even justified. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But I am not harmed by any of them. That's Stoicism. It's knowing that her chaos is not your chaos. You don't need to argue with her. You don't need to win. A man anchored in reason doesn't throw himself into emotional hurricanes just to prove his worth. He knows who he is. He stays calm, while the storm screams for attention, because sometimes silence is louder than shouting, and peace is more powerful than proof. So when the woman you love starts picking fights over nothing, look past the dish in the sink. The war isn't in the kitchen, it's in her mind. And if you let her drag you into it, you'll lose more than the argument. You'll lose yourself. Let her throw the fire. You, be the stone that doesn't burn. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Cheating doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts in the silence. In the moment she stops asking how your day was. In the moment she scrolls through her phone while you're talking. Eyes glazed over like you're just background noise. It starts when she no longer bothers to fight. Not because there's peace, but because she no longer cares enough to argue. That's the fracture before the fall. Long before another man enters the picture, there's already a death happening. She's stopped showing up, not physically but emotionally. The conversations are shorter, the laughter's gone, the small touches vanish, and what's terrifying is how easy it is to miss until it's too late. Sometimes it's not even about another man. Sometimes it's about the mirror she sees when she's with you. She doesn't like the version of herself she's become. Maybe she feels unnoticed, unvalued, or just numb. So she escapes, not to someone else, but into a fantasy where she's alive again, desired, free. And that fantasy, that can be just as powerful, just as destructive as any affair. And yeah, that hurts. Because while you were loyal, while you stayed steady, while you thought everything was fine, she was planning an emotional evacuation. But listen closely, brother. A Stoic doesn't beg for what's leaving. He doesn't chase ghosts. He doesn't negotiate with betrayal. He observes, accepts, learns, and then he walks, dignity intact, soul sharpened by the fire. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change, for I seek the truth." But if the truth is that someone no longer values your presence, you don't argue, you don't break, you become unshakable, because the man who knows his worth never fears being alone. So what do you do with all this? You don't rage, you don't retaliate, you don't turn bitter, you observe, you speak once, clearly, firmly, and then you move with your dignity intact, because if someone no longer values your loyalty, they don't deserve your silence, your stress, or your sanity. You walk with the calm of a man who knows he didn't lose her. She lost herself, and in time, she'll remember what she had. But by then, you'll be long gone, not bitter, not broken, but better.